Maranatha, our Lord is coming. I am Dr. Charles L. Pack of Thy Kingdom Come Ministries, and this is Prophecy Watch, reaching all of North America by satellite and the world through the Internet. With me today is my friend and co-host, Mr. Philip Goodman.
Dr. Pack, it's always good to be with you, and friends, it's good to have you with us also. Today, prophecy according to the Bible.
Yes, and Phil, in Isaiah 8 and verse 20, it says, "To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, there is no light in them." And Phil, we believe that all these prophecies here on this chart have either been fulfilled or they're going to be fulfilled. And so we want now to go to the studio and hear the message by Mr. Goodman.
Our world is traveling toward its date with destiny. Signs indicate the last days are drawing near. No one knows the exact date or time, but today's headlines provide evidence that the Earth's time is short. Join us for the next half hour to discover what the Bible teaches us about the future. Welcome to Prophecy Watch.
Friends, we're here on this exciting series, The Emerging Roman Empire, or sometimes called the Revival of the Roman Empire. It's happening today. It means that the soon coming of Jesus is right on the threshold. Are you ready? Are you ready for the second coming of Jesus? Have your Bibles open and ready today. We're going to be in Daniel chapter 2. The fourth part of this series, but friends, don't go away because the fourth part has some information that's not been in any of the other parts. We want you to stay with us. Now, have you ever heard of something called the Treaty of Rome? Isn't that an interesting title for a treaty that was put together back in 1957 among 6 nations? It brought 6 nations of Europe together in something called the European Common Market. Well, the Treaty of Rome has led to 5 other enlargements, 5 total enlargements of what is now called the European Union, where today there are 25, from 6 to 25 nations in the European Union. That is the revival of the Roman Empire happening in our very day, in the same time, in the same period of history when Israel has returned to the land and become a nation, and when many other events are occurring that show us that Jesus is right at the door, as He said. He said, when you see all these things happening, know that I am at the door, near, even at the door, He said, and He is ready to come back. So in this exciting study today, we're going to be looking at the revival of the Roman Empire. I want you to take a look at the picture on your screen right now. This is what we've been discussing in this series, the vision that King Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon had from God, a dream that was given to him from God. Daniel, on the right part of your picture there, is describing to the king what this dream was all about. And he tells us that a series of kingdoms from Babylon through Persia through Greece would emerge in history, and the fourth and final kingdom, there wouldn't be a fifth kingdom except the kingdom of Christ. The kingdom of Christ is the fifth kingdom. But the fourth and final kingdom, represented by the legs of iron, would be the Roman Empire, the revived Roman Empire. So friends, that empire has never passed away. The Roman Empire is with us today. It's been with us all through history. It's broken up. It's fragmented. It's gone into slumber. It's gone asleep through history, but it's never died. And it's being revived today in the form of the European Union. We're going to show you evidence for that. And we're also going to look at the question, what part of the Roman Empire will the Antichrist come from? That's something that we promised you we would do in some of the previous programs. Now let's go to Daniel 2, and I want you to look down here at verse 40. We're going to talk about those legs of iron all the way down to the feet and the 10 toes that represent 10 kings. It says in verse 40, "Then there will be a fourth kingdom as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron crushes and shatters all things, so like iron that breaks in pieces, it will crush and break all these in pieces," talking about all of the previous kingdoms. Now, by the way, it doesn't destroy the previous kingdoms, it just breaks them in pieces and absorbs them. It's not until the return of Jesus that all those kingdoms are destroyed at one time in history. Verse 35 tells us that. So let's continue on down to verse 41. "And in that you saw the feet and toes, partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, it will be a divided kingdom, but it will have in it the toughness of iron, inasmuch as you saw the iron mixed with common clay." Why so much emphasis on the feet and the toes stage and all of these details? Friend, there's good reason for it. And it's because the revived Roman Empire in the end days, look at what the verse says, verse 41, it's going to be a single kingdom, but it's going to be divided or composite. It's going to have many parts, nations coming together into a confederacy or a union of kingdoms, reviving the old Roman Empire, precisely what is happening in the European Union today. Let's look at some evidence of that. Right here I have some hard evidence. This right here is called a euro. It looks like money because that's what it is. This is 5 euros right here. Friends, this wasn't anything but paper before January of 2003. In January of 2003, the euro came into being and became the official currency of all of Europe. No longer do you have the French franc, the Italian lira, or the British pound, or any of the others. Well, now, actually today, the British still keep their pound. In all but 3 nations, there are 25 in the European Union, in all but 3 nations, including Britain, they've all adopted the euro. Well, Britain will soon follow because the economics and the commercial realities of having a single currency are going to take hold on Britain, Denmark, and the other nation that have not adopted this yet, but they will. But we see right here, this is hard evidence of the unification of Europe, called the euro, one of the most significant conversions of various economies into a single economy in all of history. Now, here are some comments from the European Union webpage that are extremely important. Europe has not only got a single economy, it's going to a single military force. Listen to this. It says that there will be a force of 60,000 troops by 2003. This rapid reaction force, it says, is not a European army, but is more of a European security force. But at some point, it will become a European army in the armies of the Antichrist. Right now, 60,000. That's not huge. But when 25 nations put all of this together, as they're doing, they've already started the seeds of a military force. Now let's read on what it has to say here about the emerging European Union. The legs of iron of this statue coming together in the last days in the form of the European Union, the Roman Empire. Keep that in mind. It says these countries are very important partners for the European Union, all of its member countries, which is traditionally chosen to pursue a policy of Mediterranean regional integration. It's talking about the European Union countries are now reaching out to the Middle East. And that is the rest of the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire. Remember, the Roman Empire encompassed more than the western part. It also had the Middle East. Now take a look at the picture on your screen right here. We see the importance of what all of this means, the significance of it. In verse 44, it says, in the days of those kings, that's the 10 kings of the revived Roman Empire, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed. In other words, friends, when the European Union reaches full maturity in the form of those 10 kings, Jesus is coming back. We don't know the day or hour. We will never know the day or hour. But we will know the general time period. There will be a generation that will see this European Union revive that Roman Empire. Friends, it's happening in our generation. And it tells us in the days of those kings, Jesus is coming back. Now look at the picture on your screen right there, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the importance of the Middle East to the European Union. On the left side of your screen there, you see the western leg of that statue. And the 5 toes that are on there representing 5 kings or 5 nations that will dominate Western Europe. Used to, in the old days, prophecy teachers would not read the entire passage. They would read more of the headlines. And they would say, well, Europe represents the revived Roman Empire. Friends, that's not the case. That's why we've got that crossed out up at the top of your picture there. Europe is only half of it. There are 2 legs on that statue, a western leg and an eastern leg. And that's actually what happened in history. The Roman Empire was divided into a western portion and an eastern portion. The eastern portion became known as the Byzantine Empire. The western portion, Europe. And they continued on down to our day. The Byzantine Empire gave way to the Ottoman Empire. Both of those continue to have nations that represent the cultures of those former empires, the former western and eastern parts of the Roman Empire. Well, that eastern part has to come in to complete the revived Roman Empire. The Mideast has to be included. That eastern leg has to be included. And that's what you see right there on your screen. And when that happens, we're going to have 10 kings. And here's a depiction of that in the picture on your screen. We see the eastern and the western legs. We see in Western Europe depicted there, we see Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain as the most important and the most powerful and the most significant nations of the European Union today. They have all the voting power, and they have all of the power in the European Parliament and the European Council. And now we see Greece as also currently a member. It has started the move to the east when Greece became a member in 1981. We began the move into the eastern part. Now, in earlier programs, we saw how we know from both biblical and historical evidence that these 10 nations here are going to represent the 10 kings of the revived Roman Empire, including those eastern nations. We see Turkey, we see Syria, Iraq, and we see Egypt, and then we see Iran. The Roman Empire is going to be filled out into its original configuration in both areas, and we will have the 10 kings. Now, friends, as we talk about this reviving, in the process of reviving the Roman Empire, I want to draw your attention to something here put out on the European web page, on one of their web pages called Europa. And this particular web page right here talks about a new Euro-Mediterranean partnership. And that new Euro-Mediterranean partnership is going to involve the nations of the Mediterranean and the Middle Eastern area right there. The rest of the European Union coming together. When it says Euro-Mediterranean, it's talking about Western and Eastern. The Roman Empire, the two legs of that statue of Daniel coming together in our own time, getting ready for the return of Christ, setting the stage for the empire of the Antichrist. This article continues to talk about a European Mediterranean free trade area will be set up by the year 2010. Friends, that's just a few years off, and that's already happening. Now, something else very significant that has happened already. The European Union now has talked about an enlargement to include something called a wider Europe. And that wider Europe has invited Israel. Imagine that, Israel, right out of the heart of the Middle East. The nation that will be key to the second coming of Jesus, the key nation, the key sign, the center of the end-time prophecies, Israel, Jerusalem, as part of that Roman Empire. Well, of course it will be. Israel was part of the Roman Empire when Jesus was here. It is part of those legs of iron, that original Roman Empire, and it will be in the end days. This particular move called the wider Europe, here's what it says. It says the European Union and Israel are discussing Israel's participation in the wider Europe initiative. And then it gives a number of things that will happen, and it says this. It says other countries will be involved. Israel, Jordan, Moldova, Morocco, Tunisia, Ukraine, and the Palestinian Authority are in the first wave. That's only the first wave of countries to come in. Turkey, by the way, has already has an application with the European Union, and they are on the next wave of the enlargement of the European Union. Then this wider European initiative it's talking about would include those other countries of the Middle East. And right on across North Africa, did you notice that? When you think about the original Roman Empire went across North Africa, it's talking here about Morocco and Tunisia. So we're seeing the framework of the Roman Empire being revived in our own day, setting the stage for the second coming of Jesus, preparing the way for the Antichrist and for that final world empire in history. Now, friends, take a look up on your screen right now at our next depiction right here. This is not the government of France or the government of Spain or the government of Italy or Britain. This is the government of Europe. Europe has a single government now. The European Union government. If you'll look on the left-hand side of your screen, you have something called the Council of Ministers. There are 25 of them, one each for each of the member nations that exist right now, 25 nations. Now, as Europe continues to enlarge, let's say it goes to 30 or 35, that Council of Ministers will increase to 30 or 35 as it enlarges. That is the most powerful and most significant part of the European government, because those council members represent each nation, but they don't represent them equally in terms of votes. 5 nations in that European Union right now, the 5 in that western leg that we mentioned, Britain, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, have weighted votes because of their populations. So they are the 5 kings who are going to stand up in the end days and carry the weight of the western leg of that statue that Daniel predicted would represent the emerging Roman Empire in the end days. Then in the middle of that graph there, you look and you see the European Commission, 25 members also. It is more of a legislative body. And then finally, the people are more directly represented on the right hand down at the bottom in the group called the European Parliament. All three of those work together, but the real power force among those representative bodies there is the European Council, the Council of Ministers it's called. So Europe has a political government intact, including a legislative branch, an executive branch, and a judicial branch. They have a single common currency that we held up a while ago, concrete proof that the Roman Empire is emerging into a single entity in the end days. Now, friends, as we consider that, we've got to think about terms that are being used in all of these web page articles that we're getting and all of the other information we're getting. Listen to these terms that are being used about all of these nations of Europe coming together. They're using terms like integration. That is a term that tells us of a revival of a great Roman Empire. They're using terms like solidarity. They're using terms like unification, terms like a single empire, and so forth. I want to pull the globe on the set right here, and I want you to take a look right here at what all this means. Right here, if you'll look right here at the globe, we see the Middle East. Here's the Mediterranean Sea. Now, you remember that the European continent is right up here. Here's Spain going all up to the Scandinavian countries. This is Western Europe. That is currently, those are the nations that are involved in the European Union right now. Now, what we're saying is that for the Roman Empire to actually be revived, not only the western portion, that western leg of that giant statue that Daniel saw, but also the eastern portion must be involved. Turkey is the bridge to the east. Here's Turkey on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean, Asia Minor, Turkey. Turkey has an application into the European Union right now. They have almost met all of the criteria and are ready to be accepted. Already we've talked about the wider European initiative, which will include Tunisia and Morocco all the way across North Africa, Israel involved in there. Well, we see the Roman Empire coming back together in a form that we could not possibly have imagined except by faith 50 years ago, even 25 years ago. But now it's coming together in the form that the Bible predicts it will come together, in the form of those legs of iron, divided groups of nations, but confederated together into a single entity. Now, friends, there is not only 10 kings, there are not only 10 kings involved, but there are 11. There is an 11th king. How do we know? We find that over in Daniel chapter 7, and I want to go there with you just a minute. Let's turn over to Daniel chapter 7, where it gives us more information on this revived Roman Empire. This time, instead of the form of the 2 legs, feet, and the 10 toes, it talks about a beast with 10 horns, representing those 10 kings. When we get down to verse 24, we see what this is all about. Verse 24 of Daniel 7, it says this, "As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise." But listen to this, "and another will arise after them." Now we know when we go up to verse 20 that he is a contemporary of those 10 kings, because in verse 20 it refers to them as his associates. His associates. So he is a contemporary. They come up first. Let's look at my fingers here. Here are the 10 horns that represent 10 kings. Now remember back in Daniel 2, they are in the form of 10 toes. When we get to Daniel 7, they're on a beast in the form of 10 horns. But they represent the same thing. 10 kings who will be on the earth when Jesus comes. And they will confederate together to form the revived Roman Empire, reconfiguring all of that geographical area that the original Roman Empire was in. Now look here at the 10 kings, represented by my 10 fingers. There is an 11th king who will come up among them and will grow larger than them, according to this. He will become significant. So we'll end up with 11 kings. And on your picture right there, if you'll look at the graph on the screen right there, we see those 10 kings 10 toes representing 10 kings, and then we see the 11th king. That 11th king, friends, is the Antichrist. Where will the Antichrist come from? Friends, the answer is in this book, and it's in the title of this book. It's called The Assyrian Connection. We want you to get this. For your gift of $20 or more to the ministry, we will send you The Assyrian Connection. I am the author of this book, and in here is not only all of the information the Bible gives us about the 10 kings in the revived Roman Empire, but about that 11th king, the Antichrist, where he comes from. He's going to come from the ancient empire of Assyria. Today, that is in the area of Syria and Iraq. We know that from the passages of Daniel and from several passages in Revelation, also in Isaiah. Significant information given to us about this Assyrian who will arise in the end days. He's going to come from the eastern leg of the Roman Empire. You will notice as you read through Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Revelation 13, Revelation 17 about the beast, the 10-horned beast and so forth, even about the statue, all of these symbolisms of that final empire of the Antichrist, that the emphasis is always on that eastern portion. The emphasis is always on that eastern portion. That's where the Antichrist will arise out of. Get your copy of The Assyrian Connection for your gift of $20 or more to the ministry. Another book that tells you much about the current state of the European Union and the revived Roman Empire is this terrific book by Dr. David Reagan called America the Beautiful. It's particularly about America and the destiny of America, which is a whole other story. But its destiny is tied up with what's going on in the European Union and these nations. You can also have this book called America the Beautiful for your gift of $20 or more to our ministry. Now, right now, I want you to listen to Dr. Reagan. Dr. Reagan has been a speaker at the Tulsa International Prophecy Conference 3 times. And we're going to have him back again. He is a terrific prophecy teacher, Lamb and Lion Ministries, Dr. David Reagan. We're going to ask Dr. Reagan this question. What is the relevance today of this 10-horned beast of Daniel and Revelation? Listen to Dr. Reagan.
I think it relates to the revival of the Roman Empire, which is occurring right now in the rebirth of the Roman Empire in the form of the European Union. And I personally believe that what's going to happen is that the European Union is going to grow so large. For example, it has 15 members right now. It's just voted to add 10 in 2004. It'll be 25. I think it'll grow bigger than that. And I think that what's going to happen is the European Union is ultimately going to divide the entire European Union into 10 administrative units. Right now, they're doing everything they can to de-emphasize nationalism, to try to get people to stop thinking of themselves as British, German, French, but to think of themselves as European. And so, as a part of that, I think they're going to divide the whole thing into 10 units, put somebody over each one of those units, and I believe that out of that will rise the Antichrist.
Well, friends, you heard Dr. Reagan say that there is great relevance. Indeed, there is. Again, we recommend highly his book called America the Beautiful. You write for this book, $20 or more your gift, and you'll get this book. Tells much about it in here. The Roman Empire is being revived in our own day, just as predicted in the Bible. And you've heard Dr. Reagan tell us about that and what's happening. Now, there is greater news than that coming, though, than the Roman Empire being revived. Look at the next picture on your screen right here. All of this comes down to a final catastrophic event. It is not an event that takes years to occur. It happens suddenly. That's the second coming of Christ depicted by a great stone. On the left part of your picture, you see the statue that was in the dream that Daniel interpreted. You see the stone hitting it at the feet. And when the stone hit that statue at the feet, it was symbolic of the second coming of Jesus to destroy all of the nations that existed since the time of Babylon, that will exist and be tied up in that final great empire of the Antichrist called the Roman Empire. It will destroy all those at one time, and then that stone, the passage goes on to say, it grew and became a great mountain that filled the whole earth. Well, that mountain represents the kingdom of Christ. How do we know that? Because the Bible just flat tells us in the interpretation. Let's read it again. Let's go down to Daniel chapter 2. And let's look at verse 44. In the days of those kings, those 10 kings, remember that, The God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed, and that kingdom will not be left for another people. There will be no more empires. There's 4 great empires. The revived Roman Empire is the final one. Then a 5th empire sets up the kingdom of Christ, and there will never be a 6th. There will never be another one. It says, it will not be left for another people. It will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms, but it itself will endure forever. By the way, earlier in verse 35 it tells us it destroys all these kingdoms at the same time. That means that today, Babylon, in the form of Iraq, Persia, represented by the arms and chest of that statue, in the form of Iran, Greece, and all the Grecian countries of Alexander the Great, represented in the brass belly and thighs of that statue, all of those kingdoms are still existing, tied up in the revival of the Roman Empire. Friends, it's being revived in our day. It is setting the stage for the second coming of Jesus. Listen to Dr. Charles Pack, our co-host here at Prophecy Watch, as he tells you that you need to be ready.
Friend, after this message that you heard today, surely your heart has been moved. In the Bible it says in Acts 4:12, neither is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men whereby you must be saved. Now you may be trusting in your church, your baptism, your other things that you've done thinking that's going to get you to heaven, but you have to receive the Lord Jesus as your personal Savior. There's no other name, no other way, the Bible says in Acts 4:12. And so if you're trusting in something else, maybe your own good works you're trusting in, you can't be saved that way. You have to put your faith in Jesus. I want you to do that today, and I want you to write and tell us about it, and we want to help you to know how what's happened to you, then how you can grow in the Lord. And we want to send you this little booklet, absolutely free, many pages, and it will help you to know what to do after you've trusted the Lord. Do that today, and our address is on the screen. Be sure and write to us right away. Thank you, and God bless you.